After that, everything was a blur. As quickly as we could, we prepared for battle and marched to the Fushimi Magistrate's office. A government office that supervised the Fushimi Station and Yodo Riverbank, which was one of the 7 entrances to Kyoto. Okay. There were a number of the Kyoto Judiciary Commissioner's men gathered there as well, in preparation for battle with the Choshu. Walking proudly in front of the men, Kondo approached the government official near the gate.
We, the Shinsengumi, are reporting as requested by Lord Katamori Matsudaira, the Lieutenant General of the Aizu.
The 9th generation daimyo of the Aizu domain, he holds the position of Kyoto Military Commander. Katamori Matsudaira was the Lord of the Aizu domain and also the Kyoto Military Commissioner, which made him a very important person. His name would have been immediately recognized. The man standing near the gate looked slightly taken aback by the mention of the Shinsengumi. You were told to report here? But we received no such orders. No, that didn't make any sense. What? Perhaps sensing my confusion, Saito leaned over and whispered under his breath.
If they haven't received notice of our orders, lines of communication are likely in disarray.
Do you mean the Choshu is overpowering the shogunate's forces?
Not necessarily. However, I do suspect the enemy to be doing well.
I'm glad that Saito is, like, mother-henning us so much. So helpful. This could be tricky. The Judiciary Commissioner and the Military Commissioner had similar organizations, but they operate very differently. The Military Commissioner's office was under the jurisdiction of the Aizu domain, while the Kuwana domain controlled the Judiciary Commissioner. Domain, governed by Sadaki Matsudaira, the Kyoto Judiciary Commissioner. Why can I not say judiciary today? Blah, 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 blah. Mouth, get under control. I didn't fully understand the relationships between each domain, but so far as I knew, the Aizu and Kuwana weren't quite fond of one another.
Nonetheless, our assistance has been formally requested. If you could only speak to your
It wouldn't make a difference. Now get! We have no use for Mibu's wolves. A nickname given to the men who would later become the Shinsengumi. It was both a reference to their reputation and an alternate spelling of Miburo, meaning Ronin of Mibu. Okay. How terrible. And after they'd asked for the Shinsengumi's help. I felt Harada's hand on my shoulder and turned to look up at him.
Forget about them. This isn't anything to make a fuss about. We get this sort of crap all the time.
But this is so galling. I wasn't truly a member of the Shinsengumi, but even so. After living with the Shinsengumi men and watching how they worked, I couldn't bear to see how they were treated, which is why this felt wrong to me. Aw, we're one of them. Every one of the Shinsengumi has worked so hard to maintain peace in Kyoto. How could these people, who are supposed to be our allies, turn us away without a second thought?
I appreciate the gesture, but I'm gonna need you to toughen up for me if you can. If we throw a fit here, then we might hurt Aizu's reputation. You get it?
Oh. The Kuwana would only need to complain that the Shinsengumi hadn't showed them proper respect to make trouble for the Aizu. All of the men, including Harada, understood what needed to be done, and they endured. Sucky. That's really sucky.
There's nothing we can do here, Chief. We should leave the magistrate alone and meet with the Aizu domain's men on our own.
Saito's suggestion to Kondo was rudely interrupted by Takeda. Sliding in.
Us? Leave? What's the point of ignoring a military command in the battlefield? Chief, everyone knows the messengers get delayed during war. Leaving now would be foolish. I think we should remain here on standby.
If this location were a camp to which we were stationed, then maybe you'd be making sense. Unfortunately, it is not, and it would be wise for us to act in the best interest of the Shinsengumi.
Do you dare oppose my opinion? An opinion, mind you, from the Shinsengumi's war counselor?
Cool it. Saito brings up a good point.
Kondo nodded deeply as he glanced at Saito.
We, the Shinsengumi, will officially look for the camp that military commissioner is constructing.
And with that, the Shinsengumi set off to find the soldiers of the Aizu domain. Alright. So many new screens! Night had fallen by the time we arrived at Kujo Beach, a location near what is now referred to as Kanjin Bridge on the Kamo River. Okay. After leaving the Fushimi Magistrate's office, we made for the Aizu Manor. Upon arriving, we relayed our previous encounter and asked for new orders. We're getting all the terminologies. A Buddhist temple in Kyoto used as the base for the Aizu domain. The Shinsengumi rented a portion of the Konkai Komyo in Kurotani. I hope I said that okay. The manor official we met with directed us to go to Kujo Beach, which we did. However...
What? The Shinsengumi is to join us? We've received no such order. I apologize, but could you speak with the commander at the
Nagakura seemed to tolerate no more of this.
What the hell? He was the one who told us to come here, goddammit! You wanna fuck us over, fine. But you're gonna be disobeying a direct order from your superior, pal. You really wanna do that?
Please calm down. I don't know what you...
The man flinched and shivered, then fell silent. Kondo did his best to assume a professional air, but there was no hiding his massive grin.
I would like to speak to your commanding officer. Do you think you might be able to take me to him?
Good grief. What a botched up mess. At last, after a great deal of trouble, we were allowed to remain with the troops at Kujo Beach. The chief and the captains left the rest of us to speak with the Aizu commanders. They returned some time later, looking tired and drained. Inoue, who'd gone with them, also wore a bitter sort of half-smile.
Well, it would seem that the men stationed here are reserves and not the main force of their army. Their main force has been committed to the defense of Hamaguri Gate.
One of the western gates of the Imperial Estate. It is protected by the allied forces of Aizu, Kuwana, and Satsuma. They're treating the Shinsengumi like reserves?
Then why the hell did they send us a message acting like this was some sort of emergency? We can't predict what might happen. Battle may soon approach us. There is little to do but wait.
So all we can do is wait. There was a chance that the call could come at night, so the men stayed awake, ready to act.
Just let us know if you need to rest a bit, Chizuru. You're always welcome to sleep on my lap.
Okay, I don't like the look in your eyes or the fact that you get the most, close to the screen time, alright, Harada? If you could just, back up a bit. Oh, no, I'm fine. Thanks. Harada laughed as I shook my head. It wouldn't be fair for me to be the one to sleep. The men had to remain alert, anticipating that they could face death at any moment. Now, if I'm gonna pretend to be a man, I gotta act like one. Anxiety wrapped around me until I slept near dawn. The men, however, were vigilant through the night. Even as I drifted in and out of consciousness, I could see them nearby, persisting against the night. The break of dawn burned my eyes as I heard it. A cannon?! The crack of a gunshot tore through the morning air, and in the distance I heard men shouting and the clang of metal. The fighting had begun. The captains looked at one another and nodded.
It's time we left.
I stared at him for a moment, perhaps not yet fully awake until I understood what he was saying. Right. With a quick nod, I readied myself to go, then...
Stop! What do you think you're doing? We were ordered to stay here.
Did you just tell me to stop?
Even during our lengthy march the day before, I'd never seen Hijikata mad. Maybe, because of his position as commander, he was afraid to express himself when his temper flared up, but it looked as if he reached his limit. Normally, he left the yelling to Nagakura and stayed patient when speaking with army officials. This time, however, he finally had enough.
I thought your job here was to protect the Imperial Estate, but you'd rather sit on your fat ass.
The Emperor's residence. Thank you.
We're here to stop those Choshu assholes from attacking. Tell me, what are the Choshu doing?
But we haven't received any orders.
Hijikata was in no mood for excuses.
If you've got any kind of pride in your job, then forget your goddamn orders and move!
Without even waiting for a response, Hijikata spun around and stalked off, fuming. Where are we going? I didn't dare raise my voice above a whisper, but I asked Saito, who was walking near me.
To the enemy, which, in this case, means Hamaguri Gate.
Hamaguri Gate? You mean where Aizu's main force is protecting, right?
The battle at the gate is likely to be an intense one. You'd better prepare yourself.
All right. Hijikata's fury seemed to rouse the Aizu's reserve, who up to this point seemed flustered by the threat of conflict watching the Shinsengumi march. At the end, they followed the Shinsengumi to the Hamaguri Gate. Oh boy. Before long, we'd arrived. Oh my gosh. The gate was pockmarked with scores of bullets, and everywhere dead and dying soldiers littered the ground. The acrid stink of firearms hung in the air. Even though I tried to prepare myself mentally for what lay before me, my heart shattered from the traces of war occurring ahead. The enemy, however, was nowhere to be seen. We had arrived too late. The battle was already over. After a moment of stunned silence, several of our men were dispatched by Hijikata to determine what happened. Then Kondo sighed.
What are the Choshu thinking? They've raided the Imperial estate. I find it difficult to know what they're doing. How do they claim to be an imperialist domain?
Kondo simply nodded. The Choshu define themselves as among those who revere the Emperor, yet they attack his home? It didn't make sense to me either. Nevertheless, the damage was done. I was in the middle of pondering their reasons when Saito returned to me.
It appears the Choshu attacked Hamaguri in the early morning, but were repelled by the combined forces of the Aizu and Satsuma.
The forces standing against them were too much for the Choshu, who were forced to retreat. The corner of Hijikata's mouth curled into a grin.
So, Satsuma is helping Aizu now, are they? Times sure are changing. Considering their less than friendly past, it would seem the Choshu became their common foe.
The Satsuma and Aizu domains hadn't been on the best of terms. I thought that they outsmarted the family domain and aligned with the imperial court to expel foreigners. A domain ruled by a son of the Takagawa clan. However, I recall my father telling me that they were not much different than the Choshu. Unlike the Choshu, however, they'd gone to war with a foreign force and suffered a devastating loss. Following their defeat, I learned the Satsuma began to reconsider their nationalistic stance. However, those were only rumors, and what had come to pass had yet to be fully determined.
Hijikata! Supposedly there's still some of those Choshu bastards fighting over at the Kuge Gate.
A location now referred to as the Inui Gate at Matsuyama Castle. There's a lot going on. Hey! Hijikata's expression changed as he considered Harada's words, but before he could open his mouth to speak, Yamazaki appeared.
Commander, we believe the men who led this raid are headed for Mount Tenno.
Oops! I didn't look up Mount Tenno, no! Now I gotta look it up. Encyclopedia. What? I lost it forever. Would it be under T? Man, we have a lot of S's. Yeah, there we go. Tenno Mountain. An important, heavily traveled location in the southern part of Kyoto. It is adjacent to the Setsu province. Okay, I can move on with my life now. Mount Tenno was located between Kyoto and Osaka. Supposedly, they're in the middle of escaping from Fushimi towards Osaka. After hearing the report from both Harada and Yamazaki, Hijikata contemplated deeply. Although Kondo was recognized as the formal head of the Shinsengumi, I had learned from everyone that all major decisions were deferred to Hijikata. This was no exception, and I could see that all eyes were on him. He was silent for a few moments, and then I saw his mouth curve in a small smile.
Looks like our work's cut out for us, boys. Harada, take your men to Kuge Gate to deal with those Choshu bastards. Sure thing, boss. Saito, Yamazaki, I want you to figure out what the situation is here. Hold Hamaguri Gate. As you wish.
Got it.
Your job's a tough one, Chief. I know this is a bitch, but I want you to speak with the Aizu bigwigs about a punitive expedition. So, punitive expedition for the Choshu, right? Some of those bastards are headed for Tenno, but others will run around and cause trouble. If we're gonna go after them, then we'll need to leave Kyoto, and only you can get us those papers.
The Shinsengumi were entrusted with the protection of Kyoto, and if this war was for aiding the Aizu, then they had to do more than just guard the gate. Leaving our post, however, to chase after the Choshu troops meant that we needed permission from the military commissioner, meaning the Aizu.
I see. If it's the chief of the Shinsengumi, the commissioner's office will listen to what we want.
After what we'd gone through the day before, I didn't imagine Kondo's task would be an easy one. Still, if the representative was anyone other than Kondo, the Aizu would be unlikely to grant the request, let alone entertain the notion of a meeting.
Gen, I want you to go with him. Somebody has to keep an eye on our chief, alright? Of course. I'll do my best, Commander.
Another laugh ran through the soldiers, and Kondo's mouth twisted into a wry sort of grin. Perhaps he chose not to deny it because he knew he might go a little crazy.
The rest of you are coming with me to Tenno. As for you...
He looked directly at me. I wasn't a warrior, nor did I have political ties. Hijikata didn't know what to do with me. Suddenly, I felt very much like dead weight.
You can't go with Kondo, but other than that, it's up to you.
All right. Kondo was meeting with the leaders of the Aizu. If I joined him, there would be nothing for me. I had many options for what I could do. Hijikata would be pursuing the leaders of the Choshu attack toward Tenno Mountain. Saito would be staying at Hamaguri Gate to protect it and to gather information. Harada and his men would be going to Kuge Gate to stop the attack on the Imperial Estate. Question was, where would I go? Gotta go to Mount Tenno with her boo. There was no question. I would go with Hijikata and chase after Ronin headed for Mount Tenno. Despite Fushimi being quite a distance away, soldiers moved at a rapid pace. It was hard for me to keep up, and I was beginning to run short of breath when I saw someone. Ah, he appears! He was standing in front of us, shadows obscuring his face and clothes, cloaked in a strange aura. Hijikata seemed to sense it too, and he motioned for the men to halt. The Shinsengumi stopped, save for one man who was either too excited or too foolish to heed the commander. Well, that's unfortunate.
Ah!
I saw a momentary flash of steel as the man yelped.
Hey! What the hell is this? You okay?
The man just laid there, unresponsive. I could see thick red blood already beginning to pool around him. Taken aback at first by the sudden attack, the men all turned now to glare at the stranger.
Ah, judging by those jackets, you're Shinsengumi. Acting like you're the 47 Ronin, huh? Boorish as always.
They were already on edge, but the man's words only made the men more agitated. I had heard from the men that they had their reasons for wearing their uniforms. They wanted desperately to pay the strange man back for his taunts and for attacking their brother, but they knew now was no time for revenge.
First, you got in my way at Aketa, and now you're all trying to play the good guy around here. So, the peasants haven't had their fill of defeat yet. Excuse me, you aren't even samurai, are you? I'd turn back if I were you. Unless you like the thought of coughing up blood like your friend over here.
As he spoke, I felt the air begin to thicken with the rage of the Shinsengumi.
You're the swordsman from Ikeda that beat Soji. I heard you were quite a swordsman, but those are pretty big words from such a little man.
Hijikata's smile was anything but warm.
I'd heard you were talented, for peasants, but this sorry display tells me it was all for show.
He laughed at the sight of the man he'd just slain.
That man from the inn. Okita, was it? Far too weak to be considered a real swordsman.
Hijikata's teeth were now almost completely bared. I knew Okita wasn't weak at all, and I wanted to tell him so, but it was true that he had been injured. I wasn't there this time to throw a pot or a vase.
Insult Soji all you want, but how about you tell us why you killed this man first?
I heard the soft hiss of Nagakura's sword sliding from its scabbard. At his feet lay the man who'd been attacked, his face now an odd pale color. I wept for his spirit.
If I don't like what I hear, then I'm gonna kill you right here. To defend your warrior's pride. The Shogun says jump, and you say how high. Why are you pursuing men who've lost and fled the battlefield? Don't you know they've already fled from Mount Tenno to take their own lives?
What? Was he telling the truth? Did the Choshu men commit honorable suicide? I looked over at Hijikata and the rest of his men, but not one of them looked surprised. The man in front of us was trying to stop the Shinsengumi in an attempt to protect the pride of the Choshu samurai, which is what had upset him. From his point of view, I could see why he felt right in what he was doing, but that gave him no right to kill someone just to prove a point. Is it really all right to take a man's life for the sake of someone else's pride? Only you can protect your own pride. Letting others control the value of something important to you will only hurt you later on. How can someone keep their pride they expect someone else to fight for it?
Your sentiment has some truth to it. Are you saying I should simply allow the Shinsengumi to pilfer any pride the Choshu have left, just to gain merit for arresting them?
He did not sound amused. No, that's not really what I meant, but... Under that crimson glare, my voice trailed off.
Pathetic. I thought you were trying to make some kind of point, stranger, but you're just whining like a petulant child. This is war, you idiot! What?
The man spoke through clenched teeth, and the knuckles of his sword hand turned white.
They started a pointless fight, didn't have the balls to see it through, and then ran away with tails tucked. These cowards don't deserve honor. They're all spineless traitors. You think a man like that deserves an honorable death? They'll die with their goddamn guts and heads in the dirt. You mean to say they should have been prepared to die for their cause when they went to war? Any man who starts a fight he isn't willing to die for doesn't know what it means to be a warrior. Let's say they do have some scrap of pride left. Wouldn't dying in battle be better than dying on your own sword?
Hijikata's own concepts of pride and honor was not something he could easily compromise. No matter how long he and the stranger spoke, I also knew that they would never see eye to eye. Whoa. Hijikata drew his sword from its scabbard, and I saw Nagakura drop into a fighting stance. Hijikata's eyes narrowed, and after muttering something angry under his breath, Nagakura stepped back and put his blade back in its sheath.
You don't look like a coward to me, so I figure you're ready to finish what you started when you killed one of my men. Big words from a small man. Do you honestly believe you can defeat me?
Ooh. In an instant, their swords met, and the clang of metal reverberated through the mid-afternoon air. They sprang apart, eyes fixed on one another, and I saw Hijikata's hands tighten on his sword. The commander's swordsmanship seemed without a true rival, but this man had defeated Okita. So exciting. I saw Nagakura reach for his own sword. He was to leap into the fight as well, probably hoping to help Hijikata gain the upper hand. When I saw him about to pounce, I couldn't help but scream. But the honor of the commander. I think we should stop him. I think Hijikata's got this. I think he can take on this guy. No, Nagakura, you can't. This fight wasn't why the Shinsengumi came here. Hijikata's troops' mission was to follow the Choshu rebels to Mount Tenno. There could be no doubt that the strange swordsman was an enemy, and a dangerous one. We might have needed our whole force to defeat him. Hijikata, however, would never let us abandon our mission out of fear of losing, especially after his speech. Nagakura could see this mysterious man was quite powerful, and after a few moments spent grinding his teeth, he took his hand off his sword.
Hey, Hijikata. I'm gonna take your guys for a bit if that's alright with you.
Huh. Big mouth over here. They're yours, Shinpachi. The commander's eyes followed the swordsman, and his mouth curled into a predatory grin.
Listen up, guys. We're gonna run straight for Mount Tenno. No stopping.
The soldiers roared their assent.
Damn you.
Pay attention. I'll put a sword through your back as easily as your front. Hijikata was in a fighting stance and put himself between the troops and the man to avoid escape.
Don't get in my way.
He swung his sword and Hijikata received it and was thrown back.
Damn. That was an intense swing.
Since there was a distance between Hijikata and himself, the man turned towards Nagakura. I guess I'm gonna keep running. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? I desperately wanted to stop, but I forced my feet to keep going and made a break for it. Run and fly, you fool! Don't stay for me!
Yeah, that's good. Keep on running.
In an instant, Hijikata closed his distance between himself and the man, positioning his sword.
You don't even know your limits, Shogunate bitch.
Unfortunately for you, a difference in power on the battlefield can be overcome with spirit. I couldn't quite keep up, so I lagged for a moment. We'll be waiting for you at Mount Tenno. I couldn't leave him without saying something, so I yelled as loudly as I could out of support. Please, come back to us. His eyes narrowed sharply and he chuckled.
Who the hell do you think I am?
His voice was calm, confident, and cocksure. Ah. The Shinsengumi's commander! I nodded to him and jogged past, falling into step with Nagakura and the rest of the men. We ran straight for Mount Tenno and didn't look back. What a manly man. It's almost nighttime. I was waiting at the base of Mount Tenno. Nagakura led some men further up looking for the Choshu rebels, but a few were left at the bottom in case any other Choshu forces returned. I'd stayed with them. Hey, Shimada.
It'll be alright. They'll be back soon, I'm sure of it.
I know, but is Hijikata safe? He must be. No sooner were the words out of my mouth than a shadow appeared in the dirt road in front of me. Ah! The shadow stepped toward us and into the light. Hijikata? I'm nervous.
Oh.
Hijikata! I felt tears spring to my eyes and shoved them away with the back of my hand. You won!
Glad to see you're safe, Commander. Doesn't even look like you've been injured. Good work.
Shimada was right. Hijikata was without a scratch, but even so, his expression was dark.
I'd hoped we'd have a real fight, but we barely started when the Satsuma stuck their noses in. What were the Satsuma doing there? Well, his name's Chikage Kazuma. Seems he's part of the Satsuma.
But if he's part of the Satsuma domain, didn't they help the Aizu drive off the Choshu? Why did Kazuma try to stop the Shinsengumi? I frowned. Something wasn't right. Does that mean he disobeyed orders? Kazuma, I mean.
Probably. The men who broke up our fight seemed confused by whatever the hell he was up to. In any case, they probably know they can't push him around. They stand no chance against him. I see. This Kazuma character must have some clout, even among the Satsuma.
Maybe it's because he's powerful enough to hold off men like Okita and Hijikata, but there's something else to him that perplexes me. When Hijikata spoke next, his voice was bitter.
He's a lazy son of a bitch with enough money or influence to do whatever the hell he feels like. A bastard like him has no right to teach me what pride is all about.
Before Hijikata could continue, we heard the sound of men approaching, and Nagakura appeared with the bulk of our detachment trailing behind him. Nagakura stopped for a split second when he saw Hijikata, and then he creeped into a sly grin.
Well, we went up to the top to have a look, but sadly every last one of those bastards already cut themselves wide open.
My heart fell as he explained. I wasn't sad that they'd killed themselves or that the Shinsengumi hadn't been able to arrest them. Only that more lives had been lost.
Honorable suicide, eh? Good for them.
As he spoke, he flashed half a smile at Nagakura. But why? Only a few hours before, he'd said that they were criminals and only deserved to be beheaded, but now he applauded them for taking their own lives? My question came out instinctively, as if my heart spoke for me rather than my head. He shrugged.
Seems like you don't get it. As Shinsengumi, this doesn't look good on us. They succeeded in their mission, which means we failed. They're dead. What good would it do me to ignore what they did? Friend or enemy, a man who dies with honor deserves at least some respect.
Oh, I suppose that makes some sense. It was obvious I didn't quite understand what he was trying to say. His expression softened a little.
If you stay with us just a little longer, you may eventually get it.
Together once again, we returned to the Imperial Estate to meet up with the rest of the Shinsengumi. On the way back, Hijikata and the men began to discuss their next move. It looked like there was still plenty for the Shinsengumi to do in Kyoto,